Tonight, we turn our focus to a former NBA player who became a bigger success after his retirement. Jonathan Bender is one of those rare guys who jumped to the NBA from a high school. While injuries did cut his career short, it also gave him the inspiration for a revolutionary medical device. But let's start way back at the beginning. Back in 1999, when Larry Bird said that Bender had more talent than anyone in the draft. In our conversation, I started off by asking him if it was a tough decision to turn pro.
Easy decision. It's just, I'll flip that question. If you were trying to be a top anchor guy and you were in high school and they said, hey, here's your position, you can be top 3.
How could you say no? You had to have confidence in yourself. You had to believe that you could make that leap. You saw those guys successfully making that leap before, so the path was already laid out in front of you.
Right, and I really didn't, I really didn't pay attention to the guys too much who came before me. I would watch every now and again. I wasn't a basketball head watching every game. I was always out in the parks playing. But when this opportunity came, I'm from a small town in Mississippi. I've never seen anybody do anything super great or, outside of our town. So top 5 to me, it was time to go.
I mean, that validated who you were. But by the way, if it were me, I would have crumbled under the pressure. So if they would have put me in the spotlight at that age, I can't imagine what it would be like for an 18-year-old to come in there. Now, we saw the success stories with, obviously, Kobe. But how do you think that those high school players jumping in the NBA, yourself included, impacted the league?
I think it really did. I think it did in a positive way, too, because so many of us were successful. You look at Kobe Bryant, you look at LeBron James, you look at Garnett, a lot of the top names in the NBA are high school guys. So we really went in and represented in a real manner.
Yeah, the NBA changed the rule, though. They kind of did a little bit of a correction, if you will. Did they make the right decision? Or should high school players still be available to the NBA?
I don't know if it was made in the favor of the player, because one year, does that really make a big difference? And if you look at every other sport, from baseball to soccer to tennis, I mean, guys come out of high school, guys come out, at a younger age. Would
there have been anything that could have convinced you to go? You had verbally committed to Mississippi State. Anything convince you to go to college?
No, I'd already made a decision, after my 10th grade year, that my goal was to make it to the NBA. That was my goal after 10th grade. So when the time arose and it was time for me to go, I went. That was my goal.
All right, so here you are with the Pacers. Larry Bird is your head coach. You didn't get a whole lot of playing minutes in that first year. Do you think that stunted your development?
No, I think a lot of players, even if you're 4 years of college, they come out and you don't get a lot of playing time. You get groomed, you get time to grow, to be around these guys and learn how to play the game of basketball. So, it was a learning atmosphere and a learning experience for me. So it happens to most guys.
You were with the Pacers during what was considered by many one of the ugliest moments in NBA history, the malice at the Palace. You were on the bench for that game, so you had a ringside seat for all of that action.
Yeah, that was a scary moment.
Was it?
Yes.
What was that like, seeing all that?
Something that's very hard to describe. When everything usually happens on the floor. I'm used to guys getting in scuffles on the floor, but when you see, things start happening in the stands and you see the reaction. The reaction was the part, right? Because usually you look around and you see all these security guys and you feel safe. When you got 20,000 people all trying to rush the floor at the same time, and the security guys can't really hold people back, that's when, you get a little nervous.
I mean, that night has been talked about ad nauseum over the past 10 years. Is there anything about that night that we don't know? Anything that led to the blow up, or?
No, I mean, everybody saw what happened.
Yeah.
The cup got thrown on Ron's face.
Yeah, but what? Stephen Jackson looked like he had something in his head. It looked like he was about ready to throw fisticuffs early on.
I mean, Steve is just a loyal guy. If he's behind you, he's behind you. He's going to go to war for you, all out, right? But I think Ron was at that tipping point. He was at that tipping point, and that cup just tipped him over.
He did what the coaches told him to do. Just go, sit down, don't interact with them. And at some point, I guess, the button was pushed.
The button was pushed.
At that point then in your career, the knee injury happened for you, and it led to your retirement, which actually led to your second career. So let's talk about this breakthrough in medical science here with this development with the knee injury.
Okay, so, as soon as I walked away from Indiana, I was basically, physically and mentally exhausted from coming back so many times and trying to get myself back into a place where I felt healthy enough to play. So after about 2 years of rehab, I walked away, and I always knew in my mind I was going to try to come back. But about my 5th month out, I started using, my creative muscles to try to develop something that could help me along with my comeback. So I developed it. It was very simple. It took about 10 minutes, really to draw it up.
So what's the point of this this exercise, this revolutionary device?
Well, it's more of a pressure relieving device, put it like that. I call it zero-G technology. So if you think of a therapy pool that takes pressure off the joints, it's exactly what this does. It's almost like putting on another set of hamstrings. It takes the pressure off the lower extremity joints, the lower back, the hips, and the knees, and it redirects all that pressure to the muscle. That is a rehab movement. That's what people with joint pain and knee injuries, that's what they need, their muscles to be engaged enough to be able to protect them from the weight of their upper body.
We see that it's helping NBA players as well as some older people who have knee injuries as well, right?
Absolutely. With our Med Pro device, it was designed for, the age range from 15 to 90 of people who are coming out of surgery, preventive, people who just have wear and tear on their body. Of course, this year we're coming out with a version strictly for athletes and highly active people with joint pain.
And by the way, you rehabbed yourself back from your knee injury. After retirement, you felt so strong after retirement that you came back, and you came back with Donnie Walsh, who was at the time with the New York Knicks.
Right.
And you played for 1 year, 24 games with the New York Knicks. Talk to me a little bit about the relationship you have with Donnie Walsh and how important it was for him to believe in you.
Donnie Walsh was the one that believed in me from the start. From trading Antonio Davis to bring me to Indiana, you had to have some strong belief. And to stick with me through those injuries, and then to say, even when I left, if you ever decide to come back, make sure you call me. That's some deep faith. So to have that type of faith in me, he was the first one I called when I decided to make my comeback.
So your relationship with Donnie Walsh, I'm sure you're still friends today then, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I spoke with him not too long ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure, listen, it's widely known that Donnie Walsh and James Dolan didn't exactly get along very well. How bad was that friction between those guys?
I didn't keep up with it. I tried to focus on what I had to do on the court. I tried to focus on, going out and proving to everybody that I could still play, and focus on making a difference while I was on the team. So I didn't really focus on what was going on. I heard a little bit about him trying to be the controlling factor and the decision maker as far as when it came down to players and whatnot, but I didn't really dive into it too much. So.
Well, what does a player think when the owner tries to put his hands and put his fingerprints on a team like that?
Well, the players, it's his business,
He's the boss.
It's his business. You're the product. Kellogg's, what would they think if cornflakes actually jumped up and spoke back to him? You're the product. You do your job.
You put it in such a colorful way. I really appreciate it.
Play your role,
Appreciate Jonathan Bender joining us in studio. And by the way, his J-Bit device has become so successful, it was acquired by International Sustainability Group, a green technology company. He now serves as the president of that health unit.